I know that looking at shame, acknowledging that we are carrying shame around with us can be challenging, but it is the root cause that I see that can free so many of us to have the things that we want in life, to go out and express our gay gifts, to have the relationships that we want, and do what we're here to do in this world. Hello, brothers. Today I want to speak to you on healing shame, which for most of us can be pretty tricky because if you're out, you're watching this video, you've lived out for quite a while, most likely you may not think that you are experiencing shame. And in my experience, both personally and with the men that I'm working with, shame is at the very root of almost every challenge that we think we have. It is the cause of our challenges in relationships. It is often the root cause, the belief that we have about ourselves in our troubles with money. It is often the root cause of why we're not moving towards the things that we desire in our life, why we're not taking chances, why we're playing small or safe. So I'd like to help you see where shame may be affecting your life and how you can transform that. So a shame-based identity can manifest in many different ways for all of us as individuals, but I'm going to talk about a few that I see as common within our community. One of them is a feeling of being superior to other people. So we amplify an ego. We try to create an identity that is above others so that we don't touch in on the feeling of not being good enough within ourselves. We create a life, perhaps, that has a lot of money, a lot of status, a beautiful body, all of the things that we could look at that would try to mask the pain, the tenderness, the vulnerability, and the needs that are inside. This can be the most challenging for us to see because it looks like our life is really good on all accounts from the outside. Of course, if we have access to a lot of money and resources, we can go to the finest restaurants, we can have holidays, we can create the parties that we want to do, we can keep ourselves busy with all of these things for so long until we discover that we're really feeling empty inside. So in this case, how do we see whether it's shame that's motivating all of the choices in our lives, or if it's actually just our true nature to succeed and excel from a place of wholeness internally? One way is to imagine that if all of these things were taken away, if the status was taken away, how would I feel about myself? If my body changed, if my money was depleted, if I didn't have that role that people looked up to in my workplace, how would I feel about myself? Doing a little thought experiment and checking in with your heart. Another question you might ask yourself is, can I rest? Can this be enough? Can what I have be enough right now? Can I sit still? Can I be with myself? What are my relationships like? Are those relationships based on status and also just having relationships with people who seem to fit within that category or that status in life? Or do I have a diverse community, and are my connections those in which I feel really seen and held and able to express myself and my true vulnerability and needs? If I don't have those relationships, that might be a good indicator that I've built a social circle that really just upholds an image that I have rather than one that can hold me and honors who I am on a deeper level. Another expression of shame that might seem a little more obvious to us is for those of us who hide. Maybe we don't have that many friends. We don't do things out in the world. We're not seen very often. We don't express ourselves. The talents and passions that we have, we're not moving towards them. We don't value them. We may have compulsive behaviors, procrastination tendencies, all of the ways that we can hide and keep ourselves small. Another interesting expression of shame can be the one that is the constant helper, that is always doing for others, is always there for other people. That could be seen as like, wow, what a great altruistic person. But they're not there receiving from others. They're not pouring into themselves. So they're always depleted. They're always doing for others so that they can be seen as good. And they're doing that action because they don't want to be seen as not valuable, not helpful. Something in their childhood created a pattern in which if they were always doing for other people, then either they wouldn't be seen as bad or wrong in some way, or it kept people from looking at them at all. These people might have so many friends, and those friends might say, this is the person that I can really count on and rely on. But that person does not feel that they have people that really know them and see them. So, what do we do about this? The first thing is to acknowledge it. The first thing to say is, oof, somewhere in this video, somewhere in my heart, I felt this ping of, oof, yep, there's shame in there. So by admitting, saying out loud to yourself, to other people, I really think that shame is affecting my life. Then we can see it. It moves from somewhere back here, hidden, which is the only way that shame is allowed to exist if it's hidden. We move it from back here to here. Ah, okay, now I can actually work with it. When we can see patterns and call them out as shame-based patterns, then we shine a light on it and we can give ourselves more compassion. Every time you notice a shame-based pattern, name it to yourself and then give yourself so much love, care, and compassion in that moment instead of, oh my God, I can't believe I have this much shame. I shouldn't at this age, ... And then talk with other people about it. Your homo brothers will understand. And the more that you can talk about it, they can talk about it. And we can start to unveil, we can start to uncloak ourselves to say, hey, here's the very core, vulnerable part of myself that I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to know that I have this deep belief about myself. I know it's not true, but it's still there. When we do this in relationship with each other, we have the opportunity to reflect to each other and receive from each other how we are actually showing up in the world. Our true value, that who and what we are is worthy. That starts to dissolve the shame stories. It can often be much easier to reflect the worth and the value and to show what other people are worthy of and that their shame story is not true. It can be a bit harder to receive that. So that's when you might take it into a more conscious conversation around it by asking your friends or getting support wherever you can to have mirrored back to you in a way that allows you to receive it, that it's not just a passing conversation on the street, but actually something where you sit down and you're consciously reflecting and receiving. You're practicing someone showing you and telling you who and what you are, and then feeling it, letting it land below the surface layer, below the mental layer. Almost, I think of the shame story, the shame-based identity as like running along our spine. It's like the very core of who we are. And to let the knowing, the reflections of our truth, our value, and our goodness start to move all the way down into the core of who we are. We can also use our bodies, somatic practices, to change our posture and our movement when we notice that shame is arriving or activated in our lives. For example, if shame is closing you down, you might notice that you have some sort of posture like this. So when you notice that story, you adjust your posture, you stick your chest out, you drop your shoulders, your head is up, and you hold a posture of confidence and saying to yourself the opposite of what shame is telling you. This sounds simplistic and silly, but when it's coupled with all of these other practices, it can be really powerful. Because when you adjust your posture, when you adjust your body, or you hold a posture of strength, you're doing this or this, you start to feel that power, that empowerment. You start to reclaim the feeling within your body, which then affects your mind and it affects your emotional body. And you can use your body to help get you out of shame spiraling thoughts. Those thoughts that would tell you that no matter what you do in any moment, that it's just not going to be right. And you just feel like you can't get out of it, right? You feel, you have to do something. So you do. You shake your body. You dance strangely. You open your mouth. You make funny faces in the mirror. Do anything that you can to move energy from within and change your state in the physical. And you can also do this on your own by journaling. You can use a couple of these prompts that could be helpful. The first prompt is, this is what shame tells me about myself. And writing out all of the stories, the beliefs, the negative talk that goes on in your own mind, in your own heart, that tells you you're bad, you're wrong, all of these different forms of that expression. That can feel really challenging. So after you're done getting all of that out, you take a few breaths, you come back to yourself, you say, wow, good job for doing that. I know that that was a little challenging, that's a little ugly and dark. And now I'm going to take all of those stories and I'm going to look at all of the ways that they're untrue, right? So you might write out in one column all of the shame stories, all of the negative thoughts that come from shame in one column. And then in the column next to it, you would write all of the reasons that that is untrue, all of the proof that you have. So you can start calling out shame for the lie that it is. This is something that I find really helpful, is to continuously acknowledge that the beliefs and the stories that shame tells me are lies. They're all untrue. Putting it in that framework helps you start to say, I don't want to believe the lies anymore. This is a lie. So every time it comes up, this is a lie. And then the last thing I'll suggest, and this is a real fun one, is to start making fun of the shame voice like it's a bully. You know, bullies can only really exist when we don't call them on their bluff. When shame is not called out, we will believe the story over and over. When we catch a thought, and this takes some concentration, and this is why maybe we work up to this, but you catch a thought like, oh, I can't do that because I will get made fun of. Or, well, that job isn't for me, so I'm not going to go for it. Recognize when a thought or a belief like that passes through your awareness, catch it, and in that moment, call it out. Make fun of it. So an example of this is a thought passes through, I'm not good enough for blah, blah, blah. You say, oh, really? Out loud. Oh, really? I'm not good enough for that? Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, bye, girl. Whatever it takes to diffuse and take away the power that that belief has. It's not true. It's something that you can make fun of. It's something that you can take the sting out of, and you can transform and take your power back in that moment. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I know that looking at shame, acknowledging that we are carrying shame around with us can be challenging, but it is the root cause that I see that can free so many of us to have the things that we want in life, to go out and express our gay gifts, to have the relationships that we want, and do what we're here to do in this world. If you'd like more resources and support, you can click on the description below and see some links that are options there for you. And I want you to know that opening in just a couple of weeks is something called Lifted Men. This is a community space to be in brotherhood with other gay men who are consciously doing work like this in their lives, who are moving towards their gay gifts, healing shame, and letting themselves be seen. I've seen so many of you in the comments saying, where are the men like me that are doing this? I don't find community. So I listened, I'm creating that community space. There's going to be two different pricing options. One is the regular price, one is a community price for those with financial needs. And it will be a resource of meditations and recorded guided practices that you can utilize at any time, as well as bi-weekly gatherings where we're coming together on Zoom to go through a healing practice and to connect with each other and share what's happening in our lives. So I really look forward to opening up that space for you. And until we see each other again, much love.